So
that's just kind of an example of one cult, and it might actually be in here, but that the allure at first was, free love, religion. A lot of times religion is like a foundation of this. You know what I'm saying? Whether it be them proclaiming themselves as some sort of a messiah, or them being
like a prophet. I see some
God's
where they say
mouth, basically.
they have like some sort of power or some sort of connection.
Yeah, and it's not that hard to make someone feel like you know about them and you're tapped in. Most people, like even horoscopes, let's say, they're general. You could read any zodiac signs horoscope, and it's like,
I identify with this.
This month is
I identify with this.
The challenges this month will present have no way of getting past your dominant force of enthusiasm and motivation. Anyone's going to read that and be like, yeah, I'm sure I'm going to have struggles this month. It's like, I could tell you, man, I know like the last however long has been kind of tough, but these next 3 months are going to be awesome for you, whatever. Like, a lot of people might feel like, yeah, dude, you're right. I have had a pretty hard
It's super
months.
Weird that people read that. No offense if you do. But
and it's
why?
like, it's really, really ancient. And it's with social media now, it's even worse. I think Twitter, it's like one of the most highest engaged topics is zodiac signs. But it's just, it does something. It's just like praying.
I think it's an inclusion thing as well.
Well, possibly, probably. And it's like praying, like whether or not I believe prayer does anything. Because they've done studies, let's say, where people are at hospitals and one group of people are praying, the other group isn't. And what's the outcome ultimately? And does prayer have anything to do with it? But I think what prayer does for people is it's an affirmation, more or less. It's you putting something out into the universe.
I think it's good for the mind. The mind can stay strong if it has some sort of positive or a light at the end, whether there's a deity involved with it or not. Positive is good for the mind.
It's tethering you in to the supposed universe and making you feel like you're not alone when you pray, So when people come up to you and do the same thing to you and they make you feel that way, it's obviously psychological and it can get you on board with their ideologies easily. So
what do we got here?
So now we're going to talk about, according to Cosmopolitan, my go-to, dude. When I want to know deep, dark information, Cosmo's where I go. It's not just about women orgasms and, sexy lubricants.
It's not?
It's not, man. I don't even know if that's what it's in there.
Is that stuff in there?
Dildo talk. I don't know, dude. I don't read Cosmo. Do you?
No.
But we're going to right now.
Dildo talk.
That's a good podcast. Dildo talk.
Hashtag.
They would say, are we saying that like...
No, they would say like, what's poppin'? Or
did you ever see the show, the movie Angus?
No.
Back in the day, the big fat guy and the skinnier dude, the Shermanator from American Pie?
No.
Okay, cool. But there's a part where the Shermanator guy, the fat guy Angus, goes, "Hey man, let's go to the dance." And then he's like, "I want to go be those two dildos," in the corner. He's like, "We are those two dildos." It's a fucking great movie. So now, according to Cosmopolitan, we're gonna talk about the 8 scariest cult stories of all time. So we're gonna briefly go through them. I'm sure a lot of people have heard about these. We're just gonna see what's happening. So the first one is the Manson family. See, you're a musician. Are you inclined about Charles Manson and his musician past and all that stuff?
I know he was a musician and he would write and stuff. And then he used to hang out. We used to hang out in Chatsworth Hills and get fucked up back in high school, and that's where he used to hang. I guess he had caves out there. I never saw any of the caves, but we would hike around that area.
Cool, man.
That's about all I got on the Charles
Were you
Manson.
looking for it?
Nah, we would just like wander, which is, thinking about it now, is crazy. Just a bunch of fucked up kids just wandering around. But it
sounds fun, dude.
I mean,
it's fucked up that's not what people still do.
Well, I guess, yeah.
Like now they just play video games.
Yeah.
Man, fuck off.
I'm just saying because we were like hiking stuff. It was sketchy. I don't know if they still have them, but they had like rocks like this with like giant nails coming out, and we try and climb those shits, and just super dangerous. But we had a good time.
Yeah, you're still here. So the Charles Manson, though, he was like a musician, and he got really, really mad because he was in a studio at one point, maybe like real famous people at the time, man. He was like a pretty well-respected musician in his own right. He was kind of like a hippie type, the free thinker, you know what I mean? People always respect the person that they like could never be. I don't know, like that's a lot.
They just say he was very charismatic and he started to bring people into it.
Exactly. There's something appealing to that kind of personality. And I think someone like stole a song of his, or they didn't sign him, and it really pissed him off. And that's why his whole thing was like organizing a way So Sharon Tate, who got murdered in the Manson family murders, was just pretty much an innocent byproduct. She just lived at the house of the exec that fucked him over. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know. I'm laughing about that. It's not funny necessarily. But just to give you a little bit of insight, it happened. He started the group in 1967. It was in Los Angeles. He was a musician. He and the so-called family lived with the Beach Boys' Dennis Wilson for a time. Do you know who Brian Wilson actually ate watermelon like every day for months on end?
Nah, I used to work with Brian Wilson's grandson or something. He used to talk about cheese a lot. Dude loved cheese. He used to say he liked the stinkiest cheese.
Was he talking like real
No,
cheese?
he said cheese. Yeah, dude loved cheese. I guess he indulged a lot, and no disrespect to the guy.
Was it pure weird, or was it like was it enticing?
No, I don't give a fuck about it. I mean, I like cheese, but he would just go on about cheese, and I don't know. He had like a heroin problem, or he talked about it, heroin problems at the time. He was a nice guy. No offense if you're watching.
Hey man, everyone needs a vice, bro.
Phone jobs, bro. You meet people in phone jobs. You know what I'm saying?
If it's cheese, bro.
But yeah, Brian Wilson. That's pimp.
Yeah, cool. So so basically the helter skelter concept is what they did, and Charles Manson, he basically led these women to kill Sharon Tate, and it was a huge bloody mess in the Hollywood Hills. And so the Manson family, supposedly, according to Cosmo, is the number one freakiest cult story of all times.
What's number two?
Number two, the People's Temple. What's your familiarity level with that?
I don't know anything
Jim
yet.
Jones?
Give me more.
Jim Jones. So basically, Jim Jones was a gentleman. And what he did is there's a man by the name of Brother Divine. And I'm not going to read off this just yet because I know a little bit. But Brother Divine, he was pre-Martin Luther King. And he was an African-American gentleman with the civil rights movement. And his whole thing was, he was like an evangelist, you know, asking people for money and like, God's going to bless you if you bless me type stuff. And he basically just like took everything from his followers, man. He would have old women give him over all their money, put him in their will. And Jim Jones actually met with him because he was so interested in how did he get all these people to give him all this shit and like treat him, because Brother Divine would say like, I'm God on earth type stuff, and people would believe it. And of course, when you're talking about the civil rights movement, there's a lot of people feeling displaced. You know, you have a mass amount of people that are feeling a certain way, and if you can spearhead a movement for them, more than likely they're going to be on board with it. I mean, what's your other option? You know what I'm saying? At that point in our history. So what happened is Jim Jones, he started the I forgot the name. What was it? It was the People's Temple, and basically in the early 1970s, he had a large group of people, and a lot of it was around the elements of Christianity, and then he was like a fake healer as well. You know, these people that, you know, oh, this lady hasn't walked in 50 years. You know, put my hand on her head, and then she walks, and it's all just pretty much gimmicked. Or the story of those two people that ran this whole ring, where it was like an evangelist that had everyone fill out cards like before they got there, like what should we pray for you for?
Yeah,
all that stuff, and then they had someone in the back that like gave it to him in the earpiece, like call row 5, seat 10, and then hey, who's sitting right there in seat 10? You know, I'm like, your name starts with the J I'm hearing, you know, whatever the hell it is. And then they just tell you what you wrote on the damn card.
I like how you put a little accent in there, too.
It's like, how do you not know that you wrote some shit on a fucking card and they're talking about it, dude?
I don't get it, man.
It's crazy, man.
It's beyond me.
But you know what? They're going there for an experience. So they're already so engulfed in the experience and so excited that this guy's even talking to them. I highly doubt they even remember they filled out the card at that point, right? So basically, in the 1970s, Jones moved his group into California, and they set up a little settlement in the Redwood Valley, and then they needed to get even further away from the United States. I think he felt a little bit threatened by the United States. People were catching on to it. Family members were getting very worried. So he moved all these people, again, in South America, the South American country of Guyana. And what happened is, over time, like there was reporters that tried to go there and get scoops, and they ended up getting killed and shit. Like there's actually a picture of a plane with like a journalist that was supposed to leave the island, with like his pilot was like killed, and like they're just laying next to the plane. You know what I mean? And what happened is Jim Jones told his followers, because he's God on earth, that he was going to die soon. And if he's going to die soon, well, why would they want to live? So what they did at first, and it's pretty graphic, but there was it was families. It was like almost 1,000 people. And there was kids running into fields and stuff like that. So the first thing they did is they got this poison cyanide and they sprayed it in the kids' mouths. And then basically the parents of these kids were so, whatever, that they started killing themselves. And then people were everyone just killed themselves. Like you can see pictures online of the Jim Jones suicides. And it's the biggest mass suicide in like history, in like our world history almost, in recent years. But over 1,000 people, man. It's crazy shit.
That's gnarly, man.
It's super gnarly, dude.
That's pretty gnarly.
So like he made him. Have you ever heard like they drank the juice?
Yeah, was that
the
him?
Jesus juice?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's Jim Jones. So he gave him a cyanide-laced beverage.
Jesus.
This is where the phrase "drinking the Kool-Aid" originates. You know what? I over-exaggerated it just a bit. Only 918 people died in the incident.
Well, it's not the same anymore.
And
I thought it was 1,000.
Until 9/11, it was the largest loss of American civilian life in history.
That's fucking wild, bro.
That's crazy, bro.
Yeah, so I have heard of that story. I guess I didn't have the names on that.
Yeah, Jim Jones is like one of the most
heavy,
famous ones. The next one we're gonna talk about, number 3, is called Heaven's Gate. Okay. They had a bitchin' logo, bro. If you look up their logo, it's pretty bitchin', dude. A rapper recently, I think it was like Juice WRLD or one of these SoundCloud rappers I'm not too familiar with, but he got sued by these guys because he tried to rip off their logo. I think it was Lil Uzi Vert. Have you heard of Lil Uzi Vert?
No.
Which some people say is Lil Lucifer, Lil Lucifer, whatever. But so basically, Heaven's Gate was founded by Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Needles in the 70s. Heaven's Gate was an aesthetic cult that had a complicated belief set involving aliens, spaceships, and an imminent recycling of the planet Earth. So Nettles died in 1985. Applewhite took the group to even further extremes in 1997. He began claiming that a spacecraft was following the Hale-Bopp comet, and this spacecraft would carry Heaven Gate's members to the next level of existence. So I don't know if what I don't want to talk shit, but I think Mormons kind of have a similar belief that like when they die they get their own planet and something like that. Are you familiar?
I don't know about Mormons having that. I don't know if it's them.
It could maybe not be Mormons. I think it is. I mean, have you ever seen like their initiation ceremonies and stuff? It's kind of weird.
The Mormon thing is super weird altogether.
I mean, I want to wasn't it John Smith? It was in the 1700s. He was like 12 years old, and he found a burning book in like the forest that told him all the secrets.
He found a hidden book, and he told someone to write it down, and then I don't know. They wanted him to rewrite it down, but he couldn't do it. It was like different from the first one because his wife like hid the shit, and
that's crazy.
It's so bizarre that people believe any of this shit, dude. Just get some goals.
You're also talking about the
You're
also talking about the 1700s and
maybe
so forth and so on.
Maybe
it was a new time.
It was an old time.
It was. So while living in a rented home in San Diego, Applewhite and 38 followers died by suicide by taking phenobarbital mixed with applesauce. Doesn't sound too bad. Better than cyanide-laced fucking beverage, right?
Fuck, dude.
So, and then they all wrote the same They all wore the same uniform and Nike shoes and had $5.75 in their pockets.
Why does it say? Please tell me it says.
They don't know, man.
They don't know.
Look it up. I don't know.
Fuck. Now I gotta look something.
And then, as of today, the Heaven's Gate website still exists and is maintained by 2 of the group's followers. So there's still people following Heaven's Gate.
Is it just 2 people? They're the only ones that care?
I think.
Or are there 2 followers maintaining the site?
I'm not too into it. You know what I'm saying?
If they're following, they must not be hardcore followers if they didn't kill themselves with $5.75 in their pocket.
At the end of it, maybe I don't know.
Were they out of applesauce?
Maybe they had $5 and they couldn't afford it. I don't know.
They couldn't afford it. Didn't have applesauce.
Oh, $5.75 was probably the admittance fee, the admission fee for the spacecraft.
It's the dumbest thing ever.
I mean, dude, 38 people times
maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was
$200.
Yeah, maybe it was $200 to get on the ship, and everybody had to put in their ends. You know what I'm saying? Put 5 on it.
He's like, look, man, I went on Expedia.
The original put 5 on it.
I couldn't find any cheaper tickets. It's gonna be about $200 for all of us to go to the next dimension.
It's lower grade, but we'll get there.
You know, William Shatner tried to hook me up, but he couldn't.
I see what you did there.
So I tried, man. So yeah, so there's at least still 2 followers,
cool.
And I think nowadays people are able to detach themselves from reality in order to almost live in fantasy worlds. So maybe these are just 2 people who are like serial killer obsessed, types. Do you know what I mean?
It could
That
be.
just
I
wanna
know what you're
engulf
saying.
themselves.
Yeah, people who are interested
Who
in shit.
fucking knows? But
Whatever.
at the end of the day, I would like to think that people are still in it. Why not? Heaven's Gates. So number 4, Order of the Solar Temple. Sounds like a Nickelodeon show. Those on like remember like Legends of the Hidden Temple.
Yeah.
Olmec.
Olmec.
Right?
Olmec was a real thing.
Yeah, Olmec was, but I mean, it was on the show too.
I'm still tripping on the 2 people who were still in the cult from before.
Dude,
The ship isn't coming.
bro. You gotta watch.
Come on, man.
You gotta watch like on YouTube. They have videos of the guy, the Nettles guy, or I'm sorry, Marshall Applewhite. He's like this. You've definitely seen a clip before. I don't know if it was in a parody form or anything or satirical form or whatever, but it's trippy, bro. Like he made some really cool videos and said some really crazy shit to people about like we gotta get off of this planet and we gotta go to the next transmissional phase of dimensional existence and like he said some cool shit that like if you're susceptible to bullshit, man, you might hear that and be
If you're
like,
susceptible to bullshit. Well, that's the key.
wow.
All right, we'll move on. My bad.
Let's move on. And then number 4. Oh yeah, we already talked. Order of the Solar Temple, founded in Switzerland in 1984, just a year before I was born. The Order of the Solar Temple traced its roots to the medieval Knights Templar, but also thought the world would end in the 1990s. So a lot of the times, these leaders, they have these like prophecies.
Like the end of the world type.
Yeah,
type
like
shit.
the world's gonna end. Like Jim Jones probably. I think he maybe said he was dying, or the world's gonna end. Or
Yeah, because I
it-
thought their thing was to transition as well.
Yeah, it always.
It
is.
wasn't just killing yourself; it was transitioning.
Yeah, it was always like this world has nothing left for us and we're too good for it. You know what I mean? Like let's go on to the next level. These other people don't fucking get it. You know what I mean? Like all the naysayers, they're the idiots. You know what I mean? Let's take this Kool-Aid and fucking transcend. Fair enough. So this one but yeah, the prophecies though. And a lot of the times that's usually the demise of these groups because you can only make so many end of the world projections when they don't happen. You know what I mean? Like if it's 1981 and I start a quote, I'm like, dude, December 4th, 1983, the world's going to end. You guys are all following me. We're in Big Bear doing our thing. That day comes.
Dude, I'm never going to go to Big Bear. We've talked about going to Big Bear. A couple's trip. Not doing it, dude.
I'm trying, bro. So basically, like at some point, people start getting hip to that. I think that's one of the big reasons people quit. They realize all this faith I put into this person's insight is bullshit. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So basically,
Finally.
these people said that the world would end in the 1990s. Things took a turn in 1994 when the leader Joseph de Mombro reportedly ordered the murder of an infant in Quebec. Later that year, more than 50 members of the group were murdered or died by suicide, and the group's building was destroyed by fire. Additional members died by suicide in 1995 and 1997. As of so far, it don't look too good to be in a cult, You're either killing yourself or
It's
you're
pretty
killing other
morbid
people.
shit.
Yeah, dude.
For like a month of happiness
well,
to start.
It could be years. Well, yeah, you're
Well,
right.
that thing I was talking about before we filmed, I don't think I mentioned it on camera, but that was many years before it started really turning into shit. Many years. So that's, I guess, the payout is different depending.
Well, I guess if you have a successful store, you expand until you can't expand no more. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes you got to put up billboards and shit. So maybe it just took that many years for them
Well, that's
to grow
what
to that
happened.
extent.
The cult leader was kind of caught up by government shit because one family member, or the family of a member was trying to get her out. So they had to move to a different state, and then they moved to another state, and then in one state they all just bought land for the main guy.
I
And
want
they
to
just
say
like farmed it themselves and stayed there
I want
for
to say
like
you're talking
so many
about
years.
Wild West or the Wild Wild one.
Yeah, well,
The
again, this was off camera, but
Rajneesh?
that's I don't think that's
Was it
what
like
it was.
an Indian dude with a big beard, Rajneesh?
No, it wasn't. There's not a beard.
Oh yeah, you're talking about like gay porn or something, right?
Yeah, the dude was in gay porn.
Which could be a cult by itself.
I don't know, but it was
nothing against gay porn.
No, who cares?
Just don't watch
Let
it.
him get off too. But
Who cares?
the guy was I don't know. He had them build a whole farm, and he had them continually build opera houses, and they would do operas,
That's dope.
and then they would break it down and do another one.
There you go, dude.
But yeah, it all started because they had to they had to evade, so to say.
And it's crazy because there's a cult as small as like 10 people, man. Like there's I don't know the number.
I don't think that should count.
No,
there
it
should
does.
be
It does.
That's just some friends.
No, it does.
It's just friends.
If one person is benefiting from having servants or having 10 people that follow them and they're taking advantage of them, I mean, so are you telling me one of those 10 people is not in a cult as much as one of those 1,000 people is in a cult? Like, nah, dude, that one person isn't a cult, bro. Like, they have
I'm
the
just
same
saying, if
attributes.
it's 10 people, it's easier.
They're not very successful.
It's
more.
I just don't like 10.
maintainable.
I think 10's too little.
Like, I think that'd be like a Big Bear thing. You know what I mean? Like, only 10
That's
people.
a Big Bear. 10.
So
Okay, so that's that one.
yeah, so basically that's the order of the Solar Temple. And the next one is, we talked a little bit about Waco briefly earlier. It was called the Branch Davidians. Now, David Koresh was a guy who believed that God talked to him and revealed revelations to him. And what really happened is, remember the Oklahoma City bombings?
Yeah.
So Timothy McVeigh was a part of this white nationalist, I believe, organization. And the reason that the bombings even happened is people were trying to practice freedom of religion, freedom of belief. And there's a gentleman that was like up in the mountains or something like that in Texas. And his family was at their house, and he was like being investigated to a degree for his beliefs. And the cops and SWAT and stuff went onto his property and straight murdered his wife, murdered his kid, and so forth and so on. And all of the other organization members took that as like, well, fuck the government. They're against us at this point. We need to separate ourselves from them. So Timothy McVeigh was like, that was all kind of aftermath of what they felt was persecution of their beliefs, right? And like, because maybe that was after Waco. I'm sorry, I might be a little bit off, but Timothy McVeigh is tied into this whole thing, and he's whatever in the story if you read it. But so basically, the Branch Davidians, they broke off from the Davidian Seventh-day Atheists, Adventists, in 1955, but didn't make headlines till the infamous Waco Siege in 1993. In 1981, David Koresh was born and took over the group. He didn't take over the group when he was born. He took over the group after he was born. And basically what happened
This dude is crazy.
Yeah, let's get into him, man. Dude looks like his feet.
Dude, he almost ended the world.
That's dope.
This fucking guy, is it?
That's power.
No, that's not.
It's dope that he. No, it's dope that he almost did. Not that he.
No, that's not cool either.
It's dope that he didn't do it. I was doping the almost part.
Ah.
You know what I mean? But so basically, David Koresh, just to kind of summarize, I'm sure a lot of people know this story. He basically had this huge compound in Waco, Texas, and the FBI set up a huge sting operation. They bought like a property across from this ranch that he had. They set up sting operations to infiltrate the property. And their whole thing was the Davidians, one of their streams of income was selling guns at gun shows. That was one of their big things. So obviously they had a lot of guns. They had a lot of kids inside of this house. And David Koresh was actually like impregnating all these women in the house. And just like we talked about earlier, they basically, you know, I don't know, torment the people in numerous ways. One of them is usually sexually. And so what happened is in 1990 something, I'm going to go back, but the FBI actually went in and had like a gunfight in Waco. And the conspiracy right now is, did the FBI come in and blow up the house and start fires in the house to kill all these kids that were in there? Or did the people inside the house start the fires themselves? So I would recommend looking into a little bit more. And there's also TV shows about it. You can get really in depth. But Koresh was killed along with 76 others, and a governmental investigation later concluded that the Branch Davidians had started the fire themselves. So, of course, the government investigation is going to say they started the fires themselves. I'm sure the investigation...
It could be either way, though. Really.
I'm sure the investigation led by the Davidian families would say that the government...
I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
So that's the Branch Davidians. Super cool. I would say more that I know about it, but I would say that's a cool one to look into and watch the show. I think it's called Waco. I think it was just called Waco. The next one you said already is very, very interesting or very crazy. It's Aum Shinrikyo. And founded by Shogo Ashara in 1984. Dude, 1984 was super cracking for cults. A lot of them started in 1984. This dude, Aum S., he first made headlines in the late 80s amid accusations Sahara was forcing members to donate money to the group and holding them against their will. Like many cult leaders, Sahara believed in an imminent doomsday. So like we said, end of the world type stuff. This time caused by a world war started by the United States. According to him, only his followers would survive. In 1995, a group executed a sarin gas attack in the Tokyo subway, which caused the deaths of 12 people and injured 50 more. After that attack, Japanese authorities learned that the group also was responsible for the murder of lawyer Tsunami Sakamoto, who was working on a class action lawsuit against Aum at the time of his death. So
what's crazy though is that
because
what's crazy about that is because of just that bombing on a subway. They were, sorry, lower on time. Okay, so there's a bombing on the subway, and then because of that, they started looking into it, and they found out that this guy, the people in this cult were like heavily connected, big politician type people, very wealthy type people, and they had a lot. They had this plan, and I don't have the plan exactly anymore because I had
fuck.
I didn't know we were talking about this fucking guy. This was a surprise. But the thing is they had a thing in play that within the next year or two was supposed to come out, and like they were just gonna basically blow up the world or some shit like that. That's this episode's Look It Up. That's all I had because I didn't know we were gonna talk about this guy, and I haven't looked up him up in a long time.
It's all right.
It's fucking crazy though. He almost ended the world. Like it almost actually happened if they did if he didn't get caught for that.
You know the guy that invented the atom bomb, I believe, killed himself.
And the rest of the world within a couple hundred years. There's no way we can last that long. That's a ticking time bomb the second they set that off.
Yeah, I think whoever invented the atom bomb is probably the closest thing to like a god on earth, because that's the most power any human being has ever put forth into the world. An atom bomb. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy, dude.
The idea of separating an atom is pretty ballsy to do it on Earth, to know that this is what it's going to be if you knew the math and the science of it. To do that is fucking crazy.
That's pretty nuts. So next, number 7 is True Russian Orthodox Church. So I'm going to go through these pretty quick because we only got a few minutes left.
Yeah, 3 minutes, I think.
We try to keep these things pretty close to about an hour, 30 minutes or so. So the Russian Orthodox Church was an offshoot of the Russian Orthodox. The True Russian Orthodox Church was an offshoot of the Russian Orthodox Church, founded in 2007. 30 members of the group held themselves up in a Russian cave and were told to wait until the world ended in 2008. The leader did not go into the cave with them. They believed things like credit cards and barcodes were a satanic mark of the beast, I'm sure, was something that they were told, and threatened to kill themselves if any authorities tried to remove them from the cave. After 2 members died in the cave, one from cancer and the other from starvation, some members eventually decided to leave there because they were worried about toxic fumes from the corpses. I think I'd be worried too. And probably disgusted, right?
Dumb.
Others left when the cave's roof started to collapse. So this wasn't as successful, I guess, or not successful, but this, you know.
Why did this even make the list? That just sounds like...
I mean, telling motherfuckers to go live in a cave for a year because the world's going to end is pretty crazy, I guess. And also it's number 7. So, you know, we're getting towards the end. We're getting towards the end.
Who the fuck?
Number 8.
If you're telling me to live in a cave, but you're not coming with me, come on, go fuck yourself. I'm not going to the cave. All right, we can go to number 8.
So number 8, a movement for the restoration of the 10 Commandments. The sect formed in Uganda in the 1980s. The 1980s, dude.
It's popping in the 80s.
It was after the hippie movement. People. Well, it was after
technology.
It was after the movement, though. You know what I'm saying? Started in like the boom of the movement, and people were just into it, dude.
Sounds like we got 1 minute.
Yeah. So basically, it didn't. Okay. So this was something in Uganda in the 1980s, and leaders believed the world was going to end in the year 2000, and basically, it didn't happen, and the leader set fire to the movement church, killing more than 500 people inside.
Jesus.
Authorities later discovered the bodies of more victims at the group's other properties in Uganda and concluded that the leaders had orchestrated the killing in response to turmoil caused by their repeated failure predicts the apocalypse. So because they couldn't predict it right, fuck it. You know what?
Why don't you shoot further down the road?
It came true for those 500 people.
The
end of the world really did happen for these people.
They were into it, and they got it.
They'll never know they were lied to.
They, as far as they know,
a peace of mind will be had by them.
So what have we learned?
We've learned that just don't worry about, you know, if people come up to you a little bit too friendly and they want you to go to Big Bear for the weekend with a friend and not have a cell phone.
I ask my friends all the time, we should go to Big Bear.
Yeah, probably don't do it.
Super suspicious.
And, you know, people are always looking to belong to something. They're looking to fit in. They're looking to connect. And, you know, with the internet these days, it's a pretty scary place, and there's a lot of opportunistic people that are looking for opportunities like this. And to just be careful out there.
You don't need to have you don't need to connect. Just be you, and you'll usually find some people who are cool or something. But I think that need could be tamed. But ask questions, always ask questions, and this was another great episode.
Yeah, and we're gonna have another episode because we don't really have the time. I wanted to tie in a little bit more about how I feel like some religions attribute similar things to cults. But we're gonna do an episode completely about religion, and we'll probably tie back in a little bit of this. So let us know what you guys think about cults. Do you like them? Have you been in one? Do you know anyone that's been in one?
Leave a comment about it.
And leave a comment.
Anyway, we appreciate you stopping by. Another episode of Jared and Brian's Show.
I'm Jared.
I'm Brian.